I've managed to get a 70% win rate in solos so far in Warzone 3, and that's why in this video I'm going to be passing on to you what I think are the 25 most important tips for getting your first solo win in Warzone. Now, my first tip is you always want to delay your drop. The amount of times I see players just blindly land on their building without any idea of who is landing around them blows my mind. So after choosing your drop location, which I'll get onto in a second, try and hover as high as you can and have a quick scan around to see where the other players are going. And then choose a building or area that isn't contested to give yourself the opportunity to gear up. The other reason to do this is so you can then know where you're going to want to push as soon as you've got your gear to pick up some easy kills. My next tip for you is to help you get the best drop locations. Now for me, I'll always try and land near a redeploy drone near the end of a drop. Now I do this for a few reasons. Firstly, end of the drop normally isn't as contested in solos, and secondly, it allows me to easily rotate to a buy station if one isn't nearby, or rotate into the next circle without having to run in the open. And if I'm feeling aggressive, it allows me to easily spot enemy players and land on their heads for extra loot. My next big tip for solos in this year's Warzone is portable radars are overpowered. They're obviously not as good as a UAV, but they're a third of the price on the buy station and a lot more common to find around the map, but the radius got massively increased. This means that whenever you find yourself in an engagement or in those endgame circles, you can quickly throw one down and gain an instant advantage in the gunfight or where you can or cannot peek. So make sure you pick them up and stow them over any other field upgrade. Next, in solos, you're also always going to want to run high alert over Ghost. With Ghost requiring you to always be on the move to work now, it's definitely nowhere near as strong as it once was. Also, with footstep audio not being that great, high alert is going to save you in so many situations when someone would have otherwise snuck up behind you. Also, if you're holding a vantage point, occasionally do a quick 360 to see if someone is looking at you in your field of view that you haven't spotted, because that 360 will trigger high alert. It's a nice little trick that most people don't do. My next tip is inventory management is key to success. Don't hold too many plates in your inventory. I really only keep 9 on me at any time at a max. You'll be far better off having extra utility from portable radars to UAVs or extra frag grenades. And talking of frag grenades, they are definitely the best lethal streak for solos, because if you're able to land it right on top of your opponent, it'll deal 251 damage, which is obscene. Also, you can cook it so it can explode exactly when you need it to, which takes some practice, but in my opinion is so much better than a Semtex. Also, it's a small thing, but if you've got space in your inventory, fill it up with extra frag grenades or tacticals, because now they will autofill into your active loadout, which in a final circle means you can effectively spam lethals and tacticals that you have to overwhelm your opponent and force them into a mistake, which will help you win the game. Another big tip to help you win more solo games is you're going to want to prioritize getting yourself a self-res in this version of Warzone, especially because of how strong one-shot snipers are, and it's one of the most frustrating things when you get popped from across the map when you'd easily have enough time to get it off. Another great thing with solos is a loadout is only going to cost you 7,500, which isn't that much. So to help you get as much cash as possible, try landing on locations like gas stations or hidden stashes, which have multiple cash stacks on shelves and in cash registers. Then if you're going for a contract, prioritize them in this order for solos. Bounties, as you still get money if they get poached, scavengers, most wanted, and then recons. Most wanteds I tend to avoid in solos as it's so easy to get focused by multiple players unless you're after a Goolag Kit or going for a high kill game, which is linked to my next tip and probably one of the reasons I've been able to hold that 70% win rate in solos, because there are so many regain opportunities for you to stay in the game this year, and that kind of reminds me of buyback solos. You just want to make sure that you've always got a Gulag Kit. They're common in crates and duffel bags, so make sure you're always opening them up. But one way you can guarantee yourself one is by targeting enemy most wanted players. So when you come back from the Gulag, you can always try and land on or near someone doing a most wanted contract to get you that Gulag Kit. Now, my next set of tips are all strategies that you need to use to consistently win situations that you're going to come into whilst playing solos. First of all, Master the third party. One of the best times to engage a fight is straight after two other players have duked it out. This might give you the opportunity to even pick up both kills if you time it right without taking hardly any damage. This is something I'm constantly looking out for when playing solos, as the odds are your opponent is not going to be fully plated or have enough bullets left to take you out. Next, you want to make sure you're using redeploy drones when possible. At times, they can feel a bit open and vulnerable, but it's the perfect way to land on opponents or for you to take a power position inside a later circle. Also, this is how I do most of my third partying, because I'll look out for gunshots when floating to be able to then aggressively push an opponent. However, being aggressive isn't always the best option, especially in the later circles. Sometimes you just need to know when to slow it down and control an area. If an area is being a little bit active, try and find some high ground and let the action come to you, and then third party when the time is right. The gas is also your best friend when it comes to winning tough 1v1 scenarios. I'll always try and rotate to hold circle side of a 1v1 so that when the gas starts collapsing, it's my opponent that has to try and force a play rather than me, which means they're more than likely going to have to try and run in the open, which will give you an easy kill. My next tip to help you win in solos is always try and get the high ground. This sounds simple enough, but it will win you pretty much every scenario that you'll come across in the game, especially in the later circles. Though you never really want to be bang in the middle of the map, as this will lead you to being focused by multiple opponents. That's why I find the edge the best place to be. My next tip with Urzikstan is take full advantage of the map density. There are so many opportunities to rotate or find a new position on the map. If you don't like the look of a fight, or you feel that you've not got the upper hand, quite simply don't take it and reposition, using the map to block the line of sight of the opponent that you were initially fighting with. Another big thing I'll always do in late circles is the late rotation. If I've got the high ground, I'll wait till the gas almost forces me to leave my position to go to the next location. One of the reasons for this is it reduces the likelihood that someone is going to come up behind me, reducing the places that I need to check to get the upper hand on those last few opponents in that final circle. Now, when the final circle happens, however, that goes out of the window and you always want to try and rotate early so you get circle side. This is where you want to burn your gas mask. As soon as you see where that circle is pulling, and if you get unlucky with a direction, drop into the gas and use that map density to do a deep rotation and to get yourself set up in the new circle. The amount of times this has won me a game will blow your mind. Which brings me on to my next tip. Don't be afraid of the gas. It's one of the most common mistakes I see from players in solos is that as soon as the gas comes into play, there's just sheer panic and they make bad decisions. Be calm and understand that it's an opportunity for you to outplay your opponent, as the odds are they're going to want to be avoiding it as much as possible as well. Another big tip for you to win more solo games is to learn how to snake a piece of cover. A lot of winning solos is engaging fights at the right time. And I've won final circles because I've not just tried to empty my mag into my opponent at the first opportunity, I've waited for them to be in the open before I engage, and that's where snaking comes into play, because I can just snake the edge of a hill or a wall until they're forced to move into the open by the gas. And that's my next tip. Teach yourself trigger discipline. Just because you've spotted an opponent doesn't mean you need to instantly shoot them. Wait till you know you're more than likely going to be able to get the kill before they have the opportunity to get into cover, because you just don't know what sort of utility they've got on them, which could end up ruining your game. Though if you do make a mistake and don't pick up a kill, the last thing you want to do, especially in those final circles, is to chase, because that's where you'll end up being third-partied yourself and taken out, because there will always be someone nearby holding a power position waiting to take advantage of someone chasing a kill. Another tip I've got is always have your gas mask equipped. It then doesn't take a spot in your inventory and it means it's ready to go. Hopefully this is something that gets changed in the future, but it currently doesn't obscure your view as much as it has in the past, and it's really not worth having to go fiddle around with your inventory in high pressure situations, so I just keep it on. Another big tip I've got for you to help you win more solo games is try not to be over aggressive. I know it's so easy to do when you watch content creators or streamers constantly rushing at everything, but the odds are it'll end up costing you a match, so only push when you know you're going to pick up the kill. And my final tip to help you win more solo games of Warzone is learn to run. Disengage disengage, and disengage some more. Honestly, I've referred to it a couple of times in this video, but learning when to run away is more important than knowing when to push or challenge, because even if it's to reload and replay and bait an opponent into being in a worse position, it all starts with the disengage. But those are 25 tips to get better at Warzone. Subscribe for more.